If you think that Rodrigo coming off the bench to put Real Madrid in the final was something crazy, that's only one of the 11 substitutions that completely changed Champions League history.
3 in the box waiting for the cross, and it was Bale! Oh, what about that?
Let's go in chronological order, and we can't start without a wild substitution that happened in the grand final. It was the big night and Ajax were facing AC Milan, a team that had won 3 of the last 6 Champions Leagues. Ajax was the underdog, until in the 69th minute, with the game at 0-0, the manager decided to take off the number 10 and bring on a 19-year-old on the pitch. It didn't seem like the right moment to put him in, but in the 85th minute, when it was heading to extra time, he received a pass outside the box.
Rijkaard. Ja. Kluivert, ja. Kluivert 1-0.
With a goal from the substitute, Ajax won their first Champions League title in over 20 years. But this is just one of the 11 substitutions that changed the history of the tournament. And the next they actually won that few people remember. But it was one of the craziest of all times. It was already in the knockout stage, and the Spanish Deportivo La Coruña were facing PSG at home. If the Spanish lost, they would be eliminated. But when the match kicked off, Deportivo completely collapsed. By the second half, it already was 3-0. So in the 46th minute, the manager decided to make a change. He took off a midfielder to bring on a backup striker named Panziani. The fans had no hope at this point, until in the 57th minute, things started to change.
Buena posición para el centro, la pelota al segundo palo, ataca y el gol que llega. Ahí está.
Then right after that, another Deportivo player scored one more. But they were still losing, and Paris completely sat back, so scoring another one became much harder. But that's when the substitutes showed up again.
Que se va en diagonal, el envío segundo palo, Macay solo, Macay que la quiere dejar, tiene que llegar, llegó Pandiani el tercero, empató el Deportivo de La Coruña.
But Deportivo needed another goal, until in the 84th minute they won a corner. And inside the box was the substitute, Walter Panziani.
Ahí va Yalmiña muy cerrado de nuevo. ¡Gol! ¡Otra vez el Yalmiña el pase! ¡Y otra vez Panziani!
With a hat-trick, Panziani sent Deportivo through the quarter-finals. But even better than qualifying our team with a hat-trick is scoring the winning goal in the final. And that's what happened with a Barcelona substitute that had never scored for the club before. At the Stade de France, Arsenal were facing Barca for the 2006 Champions League title. But Barca started to struggle. They conceded a goal in the first half, and if the manager didn't make a change, they would definitely concede another one. So he decided to take off Oliger to bring on the right back Belletti. Without knowing that he would change the history of that Champions League, Belletti watched Eto'o equalize for Barcelona. At that point, he was already preparing himself for extra time. But then in the 81st minute, he suddenly decided to run forward.
Larson, good control. Tucked into Belletti. Oh, he's in! Nothing Almunia could do. Giuliano Belletti, the substitute, has scored his first goal for Barcelona ever.
Belletti's goal gave Barcelona their second ever Champions League title. So fast forward a few years, we get to 2012, where a substitution changed the course of the tournament but without scoring. It was Bayern Munich against Chelsea, who had reached the final as total underdogs. This final was played right at Bayern's home, so they dominated without letting Chelsea breathe. Until in the 82nd minute, they scored. It looked like the winning goal. So just 5 minutes away from losing the trophy, Chelsea's manager made a substitution, who as soon as he came on did this.
Be a defensive move that will invite a bit of Chelsea pressure. There's hardly been any of that.
Bayern's defense did everything they could to stop the ball from going out, but Fernando Torres had just won Chelsea's first corner of the entire game. Then Juan Mata stepped up to take it.
Well, as possibly bleak as this. Drogba!
Without the corner won by Torres, Chelsea would never have equalized the game. Now fast forward a few years, we get a substitution that was actually the reason why Ronaldo won his 5th Champions League title. It was Real Madrid against Liverpool, and the match was very tough. Madrid only scored because of a goalkeeper error, and Liverpool quickly equalized. so Zidane saw he needed to make a change. And in the 61st minute, he decided to take off Isco to bring on Gareth Bale. Bale had been a substitute for the entire tournament and had only scored once in that Champions League. But just 2 minutes after coming off the bench,
here is Marcelo. 3 in the box waiting for the cross, and it was Bale! Oh, what about that? What about that from Gareth Bale?
he knew it was his day. So just a few minutes later, he took another surprise shot.
Fatigued a little bit, and Chan's got to bring some new energy.
Oh, there's a shot. Oh, he's dropped it! It's Gareth Bale again, and it's a howler from Karius.
Bale came off the bench to give Madrid their 13th Champions League title. But it wouldn't be the last time Liverpool suffered because of a substitute. 2 years later, the Reds reached the Champions League round of 16, this time as the defending champions and the clear favorites to win it again. So they faced Atletico Madrid, and even though Atletico won the first leg, when they got to Anfield, Liverpool quickly tied the aggregate. So in the 56th minute, Simeone made a weird substitution. He took off the striker Diego Costa to bring on Marcos Llorente. This shocked a lot of people, cause Llorente had never scored a single Champions League goal in his career. So after that, Liverpool kept hammering Atletico until they scored in extra time to make it 2-1. Atletico Madrid seemed on the way out, but 3 minutes later, the ball fell at Llorente's feet.
It's hard just to when the goalies are starting like
Mistake by Adrian. Here's Llorente, and the shot. Oh, he's in! Oh my word! The mistake is punished emphatically.
Now Atletico Madrid was winning on away goals, but just when Liverpool tried to push forward to score, Llorente got the ball again.
Here's the man of the hour, Llorente, who shoots again and scores again! Well, he's the super sub tonight for Atletico Madrid!
With 2 goals from the substitute, the clear favorites to win the 2020 Champions League were eliminated. And in that season, it was PSG who reached the final. But that would never have happened if Paris manager didn't make a substitution in the quarterfinals. It was PSG versus Atalanta, and the Parisians were dreaming about qualifying for the semifinal. But early in the first half, Atalanta took the lead. It was a single leg tie, so it was all or nothing. However, Paris just couldn't get past the defense, until in the 79th minute, the coach made a bold substitution. He took off Icardi to bring on Choupo-Moting, a guy who hadn't even played in the last 8 months. The clock was ticking and Paris needed a goal, until it reached the 89th minute.
Choupo-Moting bursting away from Toloi and lifting the ball in. Here's the chance. Oh, he's got in! They finally go on! It's Marquinhos who gets the goal!
He built up the play like no one had before, but it wasn't over yet.
They're under so much pressure now. Neymar to Mbappe. Mbappe's cross! And Choupo-Moting has come off the bench to fire Paris Saint-Germain into the semi-finals of the Champions League!
If Choupo-Moting hadn't come in, it would have been Atalanta going through the semi-finals. But it was nothing compared to what a bench player did in the semi-final 2 years later. It was a Champions League semi-final and Madrid had already lost to City in the first leg. City was the best team in the world at that time. So much so that in the second leg, Madrid couldn't even score a single goal to equalize. Then in the 69th minute, Carlo Ancelotti decided to take off the midfielder Toni Kroos to bring on Rodrigo. We've seen the substitution in this video, but it was so crazy that it deserves to be mentioned again. However, taking off Kroos to bring Rodrigo on seemed like a complete disaster, because right after that, Mahrez scored for City. Now Madrid needed 2 goals, and the situation was so bad that in the entire second half, there had only been 1 shot off target from Vini Jr. and a blocked shot from Modric. Not even Benzema could create danger, let alone a substitute who had just come in. Then the game reached the 90th minute, and City fans were already planning their trip to the final, until out of nowhere,
Camavinga coaxed up towards Benzema and smuggled in, and Real Madrid do stay alive. Rodrigo!
but Man City was still winning, until Madrid pushed forward again. Carvajal sent a random cross, and who was in the middle of the box? Rodrigo.
Carvajal. It's Carvajal's cross. Rodrigo! Oh, extraordinary! They prayed for miracles, and miracles arrived!
Then in extra time, he even made a play that gave Madrid a penalty. If it weren't for that simple substitution, The Champions League final would have been City versus Liverpool, but we will still see other 3 crazy substitutions. The next one happened in the very next year, in 2023. It was the round of 16 and Inter Milan was facing Porto. Everyone thought Inter was the favorite for that game. But in the first leg in Italy, ball possession was almost the same for both sides and Porto was creating plenty of chances too. If Inter didn't win at home, they were not gonna beat Porto away. Then in the 58th minute, the coach Inzaghi decided to take off Dzeko to bring on Lukaku, who hadn't played for many games due to injury. But even so, Inter couldn't even get a shot on target until the 86th minute.
Barella. Lukaku! Lukaku! At last! Finally, Inter's cutting edge. 2 big bites at it from Romelu Lukaku.
Lukaku scored what ended up being the only goal for the entire tie. Inter qualified by just 1-0. And that changed everything, because they ended up reaching the final. Now in the following year, another team that made it to the final wouldn't have done it without the help of a guy coming off the bench. In the 2024 quarterfinals, Borussia Dortmund faced Atletico Madrid, who scored twice early in the match. Simeone's team is known for being extremely solid defensively, so after having a 2-0 lead, the game seemed decided. Then in the 60th minute, the coach took off Fulkrug to put Haller in, a striker who had barely played in that season. Dortmund looked hopeless, until in the 80th minute.
Oh, very nearly through to Haller. Does come to Haller! And Dortmund are back in the tie! Sebastian Haller off the bench to get a goal that could be so important for the German side.
They didn't know it yet, but this would completely change the history of that Champions League. Reducing the gap to just a 1-goal difference gave Dortmund the boost they needed for the return leg, where they won to finish the aggregate at 4-3 and ultimately reaching the final. But this substitution was nothing compared to what happened in the semi-final the following year. It was Inter Milan versus Barcelona, who dreamed of returning to the final after a decade. But the clash with Inter was insane. The first leg ended 3-3. Then in the second leg, Inter went up 2-0 and Barca equalized. Then in the 79th minute, Inter made one of their last substitutions. The manager took off Mkhitaryan to bring on the midfielder Frattesi. But the game kept getting wild. Barcelona scored, Inter scored again, and the game went into extra time. But that's when, in the 99th minute, the ball fell at the substitute's feet.
Going the other way, now getting the beating of him, into Taremi, laid up for Frattesi, Frattesi into the corner! Inter lead again! Now in extra time! Scored a huge goal in the quarterfinal! Frattesi off the bench!
He came off the bench to send Inter to the Champions League final. So what did you think of this video? If you enjoyed it, I think you're gonna like this one too. Thanks for watching and bye!